All right, here is another moment that was worth watching in the debate. If you want to understand, because a lot of people have asked me, like, what happened to Kamala Harris? Like, why isn't she doing well? I can't quite explain why she's not doing well, but I can show you an example of just somebody who does not have someone who has a tin ear, I think, right? Like, this is fascinating. She is going at Elizabeth Warren. Warren has talked about, the question is, breaking up big tech companies. Is that problematic? Because Warren has been an antitrust person for an extended period of time. She has called out Zuckerberg directly. And she wants to, antitrust across different sectors. And so here's Harris going at her. And it sounds like Harris is about to question Warren on some element of antitrust and about monopolies that Warren hadn't thought of. And you get the sense that Warren is bracing for this.
Because they still think of Harris as a formidable opponent. So Harris needs to cut into Warren. So she's like, all right, here it comes.
Here it comes. And Harris starts off with okay, Elizabeth, you say this about monopolies, but why haven't you dealt with this?
Of what should be the rules around corporate responsibility for these big tech companies when I called on Twitter to suspend Donald Trump's account that you did not agree, and I would urge you to join me, because here we have Donald Trump.
All right, pause it. Now, we got to go back and no, keep that, because I want to just play the smile one more time here.
Well, the smile is key.
Okay. She thinks she's about to get caught on something and I've been in this position before, like I prep. Oh my God, I'm going to be debating this libertarian professor. And then he shows up and he's not as formidable as I thought he might be. And here is Elizabeth Warren girding herself for this attack. And then she has to hold back a laugh when it's, how come you haven't called for Trump to be banned from Twitter? Watch this.
The rules around corporate responsibility for these big tech companies when I called on Twitter to suspend Donald Trump's account that you did not agree, and I would urge you to join me.
That's pretty good. All right, so let's play the whole clip because it's pretty amazing. Like, are you seriously talking about antitrust and then bringing it into the question of banning Trump from Twitter? Like, what was amazing too is that Harris was on Twitter later bemoaning the fact that a bunch of different topics weren't brought up, and she spent I don't know what percentage of her time. I would say maybe a sixth of her talking time.
I mean, how much did you speak for? 9-10 minutes?
Thing is,
right.
This was 2 minutes of that.
Right.
I mean, but this is an incredible trend because, okay, she goes after Biden on busing, which is a real issue, but they have the T-shirts literally ready to go, right? And then within days, she's like, yeah, but actually, I essentially have the same policy. I just wanted to use that. Then, we criticized her on the straw thing. I think that that's in some ways very analogous of like, here's something I can signify, but I don't actually want to talk structurally. Like, I'm not talking about a Green New Deal. I'm not talking about radical emissions cuts. And now we go to this.
She's not even just talking structurally.
It's getting increasingly ridiculous. Because at least a straw, I don't think that that's smart politics, but you could still say, okay, there's plastic pollution. Like,
it's material.
There's something material to it, even if it's not the way to go, I think. And now we're just going into, all right, let's talk antitrust. Donald Trump didn't read the terms of service.
And what about shadow banning?
And what about shadow ban? I mean,
right.
Honestly, I mean, this is resistance Maria Bartiromo stuff. It's embarrassing.
All right,
Thank you. But I do want to also say this. What we're talking about is a grave injustice when rules apply to some but not equally to all, and in particular when the rules that apply to the powerless don't apply to the powerful. And so Senator Warren, I just want to say that I was surprised to hear that you did not agree with me that on this subject of what should be the rules around corporate responsibility for these big tech companies, when I called on Twitter to suspend Donald Trump's account, that you did not agree, and I would urge you to join me, because here we have Donald Trump, who has 65 million Twitter followers.
Wow,
and
he's
is
got so many
using
Twitter
that
followers.
platform as the President of the United States to openly intimidate witnesses, to threaten witnesses, to obstruct justice. And he and his account should be taken down. We saw in El Paso that shooter in his manifesto was informed by how Donald Trump uses that platform. And this is a matter of corporate responsibility. Twitter should be held accountable and shut down that site.
You know what
it
it
is? A matter of
is?
safety.
You know what this reminds me of? Laura Loomer.
No,
It
no.
honestly
Oh my
does.
God.
It honestly does.
I'm
because
going
it's
to be
like,
chaining
I'm
myself
gonna change,
in front
like,
of
honestly,
Twitter
You're going
headquarters.
to start off
because dude's got to go.
You're going to introduce. You're going to talk about the premise is that we live in a society with two-tiered system of justice. We have a two-tiered system of rules, those for the powerful and those for the weak.
Those for
And
Steve
I am
Mnuchin and
shocked.
those for, Paul
I am
Bennett.
shocked that you will not join me in calling for this guy to be banned from Twitter.
I really,
Honestly, like when you think of all the disparity that exists in this society,
that's why I would
That's
like.
what you come
That's
up
why
with?
Senator Warren, I would like you to join me in condemning myself for putting the mothers of truant children in prison and letting Steve Mnuchin get away with multiple financial crimes because of this whole two-tiered justice system I was just talking about. Right?
I just think like you could do that Martin Luther King bit essentially with like, just sort of the smallest of like, why am I getting,
why
am I not-
Wallace get extra editorial space?
it's
Ridiculous.
actually, it's even,
That's even worse. I couldn't
It's
think
not
of
even-
anything, yeah.
It's just like,
I couldn't think of anything actually analogously small.
I drive my car and on Thursdays when the parking rates are a nickel more, that's the society and justice that we have. Or, I can't even
No,
come
that
up with.
wouldn't even work. There's literally nothing that you could think of that he even
Like
touched.
she almost, Warren almost doubled over in laughter. Like, cause she thought like, oh, there's something big coming.
No, her
That's
smirk
quite a
was
wind
hilarious. The first part of the wind up, I thought she was actually going to go into Warren's corporate legal advising stuff. I was like, is she going to talk about that? That's fascinating.
No.
And then she went to the monopoly stuff, and I was like, I mean, Harris is another she's an attorney, obviously. Maybe Warren missed something in her plan, and then just
All
like
right.
Donald Trump needs to
Hold
get
on.
off Twitter.
Keep going.
By the way,
and
can I
then
just quote
pull up
Donald
this-
Trump?
Pull up this tweet too after
I
we're
love
done.
Donald Trump. Says, I'm still not going to tweet
Okay.
about you. Sorry.
And shut down that site. It is a matter of safety and corporate accountability.
Thank you. Senator Warren, you can respond.
So, look, I don't just want to push Donald Trump off Twitter. I want to push him out of the White House. That's our job.
Join
but
me
the
if you
way
don't. Join
but
me
the-
in saying that
but
his Twitter
let's
account should be
figure-
shut down.
Let's figure out
No?
why it is that we have had laws on the books for antitrust for over a century, and yet for decades now. We've all called on how the big drug companies are calling the shots in Washington, big ag, how the gun industry, big tech. We really need to address the elephant in the room, and that is how campaigns are financed.
You can't say you're for corporate responsibility if it doesn't apply to everyone.
I announced this morning that I'm not going to take any money from big tech executives, from Wall Street executives. We've already agreed, Bernie and I, we're not taking any money from big pharma executives. You can't go behind closed doors and take the money of these executives and then turn around and expect that these are the people who are actually finally going to enforce the laws. We need campaign finance rules
Thank you,
and
Senator Warren.
practices
Senator Harris?
that support us all.
You can't. It does not represent a system of justice to say that the rules will apply differently to different people. This is a matter, you are saying, of holding big tech accountable. holding big tech accountable because they have an outsized influence on people's perceptions about issues, and they actually influence behaviors. We all have to agree this is their power. It is immense.
Senator Klobuchar, let me bring you in here. Your response.
I'm still talking about banning on Twitter.
That it seems to me that you would be able to join me in saying the rule has to apply to Twitter the same way it does to Facebook.
Look, I think all of the rules should apply across the board. I don't have a problem with that.
So you will
what
join
I
me in
do
saying
have
Twitter
a
should shut down that
problem
account?
with is that if we're going to talk seriously about breaking up big tech, then we should ask if people are taking money from the big tech executives. If we're going to talk seriously about breaking up big drug companies, we should ask if people are financing their campaigns by taking money from big drug.
Okay, now I do have a theory that occurs to me as I'm watching this. Let's put up the tweet, though, that Kamala Harris tweeted out. You just watched, what was that, a 2.5-minute exchange? That
is your theory that she's barred out on Xanax?
After the debate, she wrote 3 hours. Not one question about climate crisis, not one question about LGBTQ rights, not one question about immigration. These issues are too important to ignore after you talk about banning Donald Trump from Twitter. Now, I do have a theory. There have been instances, most of this granted in fiction, where you make some type of Faustian bargain where if you say certain words or get certain words to be said by someone else, then you get something. It's quite possible that she had some type of deal with the devil where if she could convince Warren to say those words, Kamala Harris would be president. Like, that's just one of my theories. Because otherwise, it is completely baffling as to what she thought she was getting.
She's so marginal right now that it wasn't even worth it to say 2-tier justice system. Steve Mnuchin, thank you. Next. I mean, like we were saying earlier in prep that, I mean, Warren wasn't even that great in response because it's like when you're playing tennis with somebody who has like this totally bizarre game without like any proper strokes and they somehow just keep lobbing the ball over the net. You can't actually really get into a rhythm yourself. It's like, I guess I'll turn this into a question about campaign contributions. This person's really obsessed with this really trivial thing.
Yeah, she's clearly getting up on that Xan. She used to be much better at this, and now she's, well, you saw.
You know, you lost John Lovett. Might not be long for Kamala Harris.
That's right. John Lovett said, Kamala Harris going after Elizabeth Warren on banning Trump from Twitter is one of the more pathetic stunts I've seen in a debate. And then who's Ian Sams?
It's Kamala National Press Secretary.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I was like, who's this guy saying this is wild, John? He's violating Twitter rules. Like, who's still hitting this? Oh, of course. It's the guy who advised her to say this, probably. Yeah. Oh, I've got the perfect thing for you to say. You can nail her because Warren has not come out in favor of banning Trump from Twitter. I mean, wow.
I could imagine like maybe.
Oh, there's a lot of like Twitter donuts.
Yeah, there's a couple of like weirdos in Bethesda.
Go to the phones. You're calling.